Recording session for Monday, 5/22/2017. S&P 500 ETF, big picture uptrend, recent trend action, sideways near the all-time high, test the all-time high, now back within this range. Volatility was expanding with some volume, above average volume coming in, but basically still within this range. But just means that the big picture uptrend is still intact, right? So really, if we got below like 233, maybe you start to see some downtrending action, but as of now, all is good in the hood with uptrend. Top two pre-market movers, Artis, so Radius, was this big picture sideways to down, definitely recent downtrend since August. So you're getting a pop up and a gap up in a weak stock. Pre-market. I just thought this might be a good trade for the future. You just kind of see the pre-market high pop up right off the open, an immediate failure. So, if you were anticipating this like weakness, you maybe could have been shorting that right off the open. And that's the only place you could really be short is like anticipate the pre-market high, it fails, and then get short once it gets back below the pre-market high. So just really be ready to short like right off the open. Maybe you got to risk $1, but you maybe make $3. So quick 3-to-1 just right off the open. Maybe this is a move or anyway. So quick fade there. Chim Chims, kind of same idea. So more like sideways to down, big picture, but still it's had some volume in the background, and same idea in pre-market, just like we're kind of had a pre-market resistance point, so you open up and test that, and then you short your first pop below VWAP, looking for a little fade. So thinking about things to add to my quiver once I can trend trade well all the time, and this definitely some ideas. So what did I trade today? A lot of good lessons today, a lot of good a lot of things to consider. Okay, so AAOI, big picture uptrend, technology sector. What's the recent trend action is kind of going sideways at the all-time high, a little bit, prior resistance becomes support, bounce, right, as volume comes in, and we're just acknowledging once we get to the all-time high that we could potentially be looking for longs. We like that we open lower. So a couple of things on this. Off the open, right, and I had this market before and I got rid of it. Kind of saw that we were making this like intraday, this wedge pattern off the open, which if you pull this back to right at the beginning, so you could just see that we were wedging. It was very, very obvious we're making lower highs but higher lows. So, which is usually indicative of an intraday breakout. Now, I hadn't really planned for this type of entry to kind of buy in the wedge, and so I didn't. You could have bought in here to risk, to this higher low, 65 cents. Could have bought like 150 shares, something like that. Control my risk, and I don't think that's a bad plan. If you say, hey, I'll buy it in the wedge. When I stop at one of these lower highs or higher lows rather, and you're playing it in the direction of the long-term trend, maybe that has edge. I think the more safe play, the play that probably has more edge is buying the first pullback once it picks the direction. So boom, picks the direction, tests the opening range high. So you kind of buy in here. You only have to risk 35 cents. I mean, if you have to risk the VWAP, risk 75 cents was a lot. I don't think you have to risk that much there. So anyway, so you could I could have legitimately bought 200 shares in here, risked 50 cents, and been in a position of mental strength. But I had not planned for that, and so all I was thinking was we're still within the opening range, but this wedge resolved itself in a direction, and that's kind of how I have to think about that. And now, what is good about this is that I have a plan for how I will trade this, in the future. So, talk about subsets of different ways that stocks can trade. This is definitely one of them. So, buy the first pullback in a wedge or short the first pop after a wedge picks its direction. Anyway, so we get our move up. I know that AOI has about $6 usually of ATR on a wide range day. So from top to bottom, we had gone up maybe 375. So you're thinking there's room left. I was a bit premature buying it here. And of course I got stopped out like right at the turning point. So this bad entry, and it really reinforces how important getting the proper entry is. And I talked about my 3 things of trading with the big picture, making sure I have a real entry, and making sure there's room left. So I did 2 out of 3 of those things, right? But I knew that this was stock is in play today. There's real volume. So, maybe I should have been entering back in somewhere in here. I just kind of saw the first hint of weakness on a red close and bought. But I put my stop back down here, so I had to risk a bit more, right? So, anyway, I got back in after I was stopped out. But the whole point is, if I wait just a little bit longer, and kind of just enter in this overlap instead, I can risk a little bit more, and I probably won't get stopped out there. So, or if I enter in the appropriate spot here, I'm really in a position of mental strength, and that's what we're talking about. It's really, really important to be in that position of mental strength. And my exit, I had like a limit order kind of at like 45, and as soon as we tested up, we started coming back down pretty hard, so I just got out. If I would have held to the very end of the day, kind of would have got out right in there, but could have just been selling to this little strength. I mean, this like high was like 71.14 or something, so I'm really counting pennies at that point. As soon as we hit like 71.34, I could just mark it out and get myself an extra 50 cents. So, not a horrible exit, but definitely think I could have exited better as well. So, yeah, just the biggest lesson on this trade, I know I've been harping on AOI for a while, is just how important a good entry is for putting you in a position of mental strength. Okay, to go over some other trades from today, we have BlackBerry, which was on my list, so big picture uptrend, BlackBerry tech sector, recent trend actions, kind of like some sideways days, just right underneath the all-time high, kind of had a multi-day level, this like 1040-ish, and I give my note that I wanted to see it hold above the all-time high. So we spend a couple hours above the all-time high. I'm kind of making an obvious level here. So prior, resistance becomes support. Just could have been buying here. Stop at VWAP 10 cents, 6 to 1. Next one, Sina. So there's not really a daily chart setup of Sina. So let me get free ahead of myself. So Sina tech sector, big picture uptrend. Recent trend action was kind of going sideways for about 8 months. Recent wide range volume blast, just kind of knowing that we have no resistance above the all-time high. So what did we see? We open up, we kind of go sideways off the open, we don't go up, and then the prior opening range high resistance becomes support. So I was about to take this trade before AOI, but I just thought, Sina doesn't really have as much. Just from the daily chart setup, it's quite overextended. I mean, sure, we're coming off of a kind of a higher level consolidation, but kind of had a couple of closes already. Maybe there's not as much juice as AOI had potentially. So anyway, still, if you took this trade and kind of risk just below here, maybe 50 cents, you're still getting out with like a almost 3 to 1. So just trading with the long-term trend with appropriate intraday entry, and then Tractor Supply. So we talked about consumer cyclical sector, big picture downtrend. And I talked about this the other day, and maybe it's more of like a swing trade setup that I was thinking. It's frustrating to see stocks go down that you're trying to trade, like maybe trying to short, and it didn't go down. But just the premise is a couple days, like trend action, just a couple overlapping days, the all-time low, break to all-time low. You could have called this consolidation, holding, price acceptance at the all-time low, maybe short it anywhere in there with your stop VWAP, so quarter to make 80 cents, so 3-to-1, or even better, prior support becomes resistance. You risk 20 cents to make 60 cents, so 3-to-1 right there. So either way, you can get a 3-to-1 in Tractor Supply. And then Sorrel. Sorrel's a penny stock, automotive parts, and consumer SIC. So what's the recent trend action? Just volume blast, making just kind of a volume run here, and just closing at the all-time high. So big picture trend is up, and recent trend action is just like you want to trade this as it gets above the prior day's high. So opens up, does it immediately go up? No. There's volume on this up move, and then we go sideways in here for an hour. So if you would have just said, hey, I'm going to buy in this sideways action, stop below VWAP 20 cents, you know that maybe you're not holding this up at the end of the day because previous wide range days maybe like $1.60. This wide range day is like $1.10, so call it $1.30. You're already up 86 cents. So you said $1.60. Measured move on the day plus $1.60. You bought in here. So once you get your next like 80, next dollar, you're probably looking to get out, pretty soon in there. After you get more than your dollar, and maybe there's not much more left. Definitely after this wide range move, count and change character move, and maybe could have got out on this pop. So So just to rehash, I'm happy I took a second entry. I didn't let getting stopped out affect me too mentally. But I think what was more important, I left myself a note just about the Anyway, I have another note in my journal, but I know what it was. Can't read it directly, but it was just like I felt. Well, I didn't have that first good entry on the wedge. Just watching price go up without me, I definitely felt emotional. It definitely triggered something that made me want to chase and maybe want to enter and not wait for a good entry. So, just that too is we talked about being in a position of strength. It's just keeping, my emotions in check by having a good entry and having a good plan. It's not that we get in early. It's just, it does put you in that position of strength. And so really, focusing on my entries, and that's the difference between a really major winning day versus just a slight winning day, and that's the difference right there. So sorry this video ran a little long, but I thought some really good stuff got out of today. All right, later.